You're listening to the Black Eagles podcast.
Ahmet Dursun Sergen aldı. Sergen Bülent yan yana. Sergen Bülent. Sergen. Yanında Tümer var. Tümer'e doğru aksın kaybetti. Tümer topu aldı. Sergen aldı. Gol! Gol! Gol! Sergen attı. Sergen attı. Şampiyonluk geldi. Sergen attı. Şampiyonluk geldi.
İbrahim'in pası. Zuma. Şimdi Ahmet. İkinci gole gidiyor Beşiktaş. Ahmet. Ve gol!
Hello, Black Eagles, and welcome back to the Black Eagles podcast. My name is Kaan Bayazit, and as we have been co-hosting again recently, I am joined again by the man from New York City, the only guy who knows how to make these awesome beats, Sinan Schwarting.
Yeah. Hello, everybody. I wish that, like, I'm bringing a lot of cheer into this, and I don't know, like, how appropriate it is, given everything, but...
Yeah. I mean, a lot of stuff has happened since our last episode. We alluded to it already in the last episode. We had really big elections coming up. I think we were all a little bit anxious about what was going to happen in those elections because there was a lot of talk of vote buying and that kind of thing. And I think we were all on edge on the day of the elections, kind of fearing that the establishment, so to speak, of the last 20 years would hijack the elections against the will of the people. But the will of the people prevailed, and Hassan Arat won by not a small margin over Serdal Adali. He won every single ballot. And he is the new president of the club, and he brings with him a whole crew of people who are at the top of their field, bankers who will be responsible for the financial aspect of the club, a textile mogul who will be responsible for Kartal Juvası, and of course Feyyaz Uçar, a former player of the club. He will be responsible for the football branch, which is, I think, something we are most interested in. But there was also a game only a couple of days after the elections. That one did not go as we had hoped. The derby against Fenerbahçe.
And I guess even I thought I had a fun way for us to review not just that match, but so there have been 3 matches since our last episode, right? And we had the Samson victory, of course the Brugge, destruction, embarrassment, and I think we can gloss over that one. And then, of course, as you mentioned, the big derby. And without hijacking what you were saying, I thought what we could do is just like look at the tactics, the formations that we put out in those matches, and then kind of use that as a way to like do a very short-term review of Rizzo's work thus far. But we'll save that for later. Sorry, I didn't want to keep up with the introduction. Because you were saying
I don't really. I personally, I'm more interested in the off-the-field stuff right now. Not at all. I'm not interested in the football at all. Whatever,
exactly.
Because I feel like at the moment it's just counting down until January until we can do something about the squad that is in complete disarray and has been for months, which is unrelated to Giza Çalınbay, in my opinion. Whether you I don't think there is much to like, but whether you think he should stay or he should go, I think whatever we've seen so far, there's not much that we can put into it. Like, if you look at it if you take your nose off of the looking glass and you take a step back and you look at what he's had available to him.
That's exactly why I wanted to do what I was saying, because a lot of it is stuff that you would criticize under a normal circumstance, but I think you have to, let's just dive in, because I think that's actually kind of a good segue, right?
Yeah.
Going back to Samson, right, the lineup, and that's it. We're not going to talk about the match itself. We won 1-2 on the road, whatever. That's actually a pretty decent result.
Big deal for us, given our on the road
our road
form.
Escapade.
Yeah, exactly.
And here, so the formation, right? So we had Mert in the goal, with Kali and Necip on the back line, Rosier and Masuaku on the back flanks. So that was like almost a regular back
That
line.
was like the best lineup he's been able to field, I think, since he took over, because he didn't have Masuaku, right?
You could debate whether it's Necip or whoever else, but yeah, I mean, it's very close. And then in the midfield, you've got Amir Hadzimetovic, Ox, and Jedson.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got on the wings, Cenk Tosun and Onur Bulut with Jackson Muleka up front. Now, obviously you're like, Onur on the wing, what kind of bullshit is that, blah, blah, blah. But in his defense, there's no one else. There's Gezal was still injured at that point. So even on the bench,
I think everyone will tell you they're Semi Kilicsoy, and I would agree with that.
Well, exactly. No, and I mean that was the one debatable point, right? It's like, do you play Onur on the wing, or do you like have some cojones and put Semi?
I mean, do you really need cojones? Because if you look at how poorly Onur has been playing, like I'll give him that.
This was going to be one of my talking points. Absolutely.
I mean, I'll give him that he was decent in the beginning of the season when he was also starting on the wing and he was putting in shifts and he wasn't a liability, but he's been a massive liability ever since Rosier has been in and out due to injury, and Onur is weighing us down. I don't see.
He's a waste man, in the words of our Scottish friend.
And I don't see why you wouldn't then just give Simi Kilicsoy a chance. It can be worse than Onur. Onur can't defend. He's a right back and he cannot defend. He just gets, everyone breezes past him. He doesn't stop a single cross. He doesn't stop an action from a winger. So defensively, put Simi on the wing. Yeah. His defensive contribution isn't gonna be worse than Onur, I think, because Onur.
Plus, when you know that you have Cenk opposite him, it means that you've basically guaranteed that there's going to be no creativity from the wing. Like that's out from the get-go.
Onur
has a decent cross.
That's what people keep saying, right?
But he's not going to create an opportunity. He almost has to be sort of gifted an opportunity to cross it.
It's like,
which is like creating a chance around him.
Yeah,
which is not like that's nonsensical in a way.
And that's the thing. Like he can't dribble past the guy. So the only way he gets into crossing opportunities is if he plays a good combination with a winger. But if he's when he's a winger. Yeah, that doesn't, like, I don't remember which game it was, and I think our friend Özcan said, well, he's one of the best crossers in the team, and I think he didn't give a single cross in that entire game.
Yeah, that was supposed to be his redeeming quality, and it just didn't happen. Because, again, you have to, like, basically construct the whole offense around him to create a chance for him to put it in, right? Because it's not like he's going to create that on his own.
And offensively, it's not like he does. It's not like he loses the ball or anything constantly. He does like play about with the midfielders and stuff, but he doesn't advance the play. He doesn't go. He doesn't do anything proper. I think. Against weaker opposition in the beginning of the season when we were playing those European qualifiers, he'd pop up in the box and he'd score a goal, or he'd almost score a goal, and he'd do some useful stuff, almost just like he was playing against lower tier players, and then he can kind of show that he's a professional footballer, I guess. But like recently, we're picking a lot on Onur right now, and I'm sure that given the circumstances that the team is doing well, and he can just be a little bit of a like the 11th or the 10th man around 7 or so good players. I'm sure he can be somewhat useful, but right now when the team is in this bad of a shape and you're looking to Onur Bulut in your attack to contribute and to help you win games, that's just not gonna work. And
this is like the cherry on top though, and it's because it's 3 matches back and people seem to have a short memory these days. What makes everything worse in the big picture is that the without a doubt, player of the man of the match for that one was Valentin Rosier, who created the first goal by getting the penalty for us.
Yeah, true.
And was just basically exceptional in that match, statistically as well. So the notion that we're now looking at some period going forward, hopefully just a couple matches, and that's one of the first things they fixed in January. But
and he has been the whole season one of the most consistent players that, like, one of the few guys that has been able to keep his head above water, right?
Exactly.
Like everyone else is drowning, except for Ox, maybe, who I've criticized because I expect more from him. But I think I might have been a little bit unfair on him, because if you look at it statistically, he's doing a really good job, and like you can't. You can't really expect him to win games on his own when the entire team around him is absolute rubbish. When the attack, when Abubakar isn't doing anything, when Cenk is trying but not really able to do much. When
I agree.
yeah, Rebic has had a couple of moments, but like he's had that one good game, and
I this is a good chance to mention. I think if you really want to look for any kind of a silver lining in whatever we're doing out there on the pitch, he actually has scored now in our last 2 matches. I was going to say that,
one was a penalty, but
one
still
was
a really
good
good penalty, and Divakovic got really close, but it was a perfect penalty. So that's something like I when we got that penalty, I was like, oh, I don't know if I want Cenk to take it, because Cenk is a penalty specialist, but he's missed a few important ones. So
that was perfect, and the way he celebrated, given the interview that had just come out of his, I don't know if folks know about that, but what was that, Sky Sports, I think?
I think it was Sky Sports, yeah. It was a good interview. It's not the first one, it's like a second interview or something, and I don't know how Ox manages to speak so well about us when we are so shit right now.
I know, especially. All right, it's been a lot since the interview.
I after the interview and then watching the game, I was just sitting there thinking to myself, what must this guy be thinking? Like, what did I end up into? He's gone from Liverpool, who've been really good under Jurgen Klopp. Okay, they had a bad season recently, but like all in all, what was it? 2-3 Champions League finals, won the league for the first time in 30 years, are playing all out great football, and then he's come into this. I don't know what this is, man. Like, this is legitimately the worst Besiktas I have ever seen in my life. Like, not just like match per match, right? But like consistently throughout the season. There was, our friend Yusuf said, well, it was 2005, 2006, not worse. And no, man, I can't remember us being this bad. I think the only time we were this bad was in the second half of the 2003-2004 season, after the Jempapila game and after the Gaziantep game in the Cup, because they completely and utterly destroyed us. The referees did. And the team just, at a certain point, after a couple of games of trying to fight back against the headwind, you just saw that the team lost complete belief, and that it was just going through the motions until the end of the season. And that's what it feels like now. The difference is we're in the middle.
We're not even at the
middle. We're not even at the middle part. We're like halfway through the first half of the season, and almost the entire team seems to be going through the motions. And even worse, I think there's a massive rift in that dressing room. I think it's the only explanation for how bad things are going. And also,
and we're getting to that. That's gonna, I mean, and that's gonna take the bulk of this episode for us to discuss, because it is the issue. But just to keep on this sort of tailwind of reviewing. So next up was Brugge, 5-0 loss. One of the worst things. The lineups we put out. So it's Ersin in goal, Tayfur at right back, Onur and Kali in the middle of our defense. Zaynutdinov on the left side. Salih, Demir Ege, or Ege Demir, in the middle with Ox. Cenk Tosun on the right wing, Rebic on the left wing, and Abu in the middle. And
on paper, offensively a good lineup, right?
Finally, you'd think, oh, that's those, like, we finally get to see these guys playing for a minute. But yeah, this is certainly, I would say, the low light of the season. I don't know, no chances created, no big chances missed.
Yeah. Absolutely nothing, right? And I think
One shot on target.
yeah. And I mean, going into this game, you knew that defense, man, that is gonna be wobbly. But at least offensively, we look like we've got a decent team on the pitch. But then when you look at the game, it's like there's like no, it's like there's nobody. It's like you're playing 7-11. Like you're playing 7 guys to 11 guys, and they're just cutting through you. Like they're just cutting through you like a hot knife through butter every single time again. Like this, believe it or not, the away game against Brugge, which I think we all thought was really bad, but somehow we managed to get a point there because they wasted so many chances and we scored at the end. But that game was so much better than this one, because at least in that game we had fighting spirit. And we had Jetson going around winning balls, and we had something, at least a little, like the smallest spark. But in this game, it was like it was like a training game that they did not want to be at. And I mean, even after the game, I think Risa Chalenbai said something along the lines of, "If I had the option not to play this match, I would have not played it." So I mean, that kind of says it all, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And again, like, if we're looking to defend him, I mean, all right, like, Jedson is on the bench here. That's one, just, like, maybe, like, I think we could argue this is another game where Demir Ege was, like, just out of his class level.
This is maybe also kind of what I want to say is Demir Ege has been thrown in there since the beginning of the season, and he's been drowning, obviously.
Yeah,
but we've seen some good things about him. But look, he's so young, and I am guilty of this myself, like really ripping into him. And then I'm thinking, well, maybe Riza is doing Simi a favor by not playing him.
Because we're not getting, he's not tarnishing his opinion, our opinion.
Yeah, I mean, remember
that. I will say, if you really want to like pick on that midfield, sure, like the kid who's being thrown into the fire, right? It's like for early on.
Yeah.
Sure, you could pick on him if you want, but it's probably worth noting that Salih Uçan was just as bad, if not even a little bit worse, than Demir Ege. And like, what the hell is his excuse? He's a veteran that we haven't just given him a pay raise and all that.
No, I don't think so.
Oh, did we not? We didn't agree on it in the end. Okay. Maybe that's for the best, because like, what is his excuse? Honestly, is he playing for a contract? Is that what you call that?
I mean, he's going down with the ship, right? I think the majority of the team is just going down with the ship. Some of them are wailing about and trying. Like, you know, the last couple of games, I feel like Cenk's really been trying, but then he's coming off of a bad injury, and he hasn't been good all season. I mean, he's been recovering. Like, I mean, he had a really good season last season, right? And then he got that injury, that knee. Was it a knee? I think it was a knee injury. He damaged his knee cartilage or something, I believe. And then
like on the pitch.
Yeah,
the pitch
so he missed the entire training camp, the entire preseason, and then he came back right at the start of the season. And I think we haven't seen a good Cenk since the injury.
I'd agree with that.
He's been trying. That's not the problem, but like it's just we haven't seen last season's Cenk. I'll put it that way. I think he scored 17 goals last season. He scored a couple goals this season. It's not like Cenk scores. Cenk will score goals.
What I think will maybe benefit him is, and no spoilers, I guess, given recent events, which we'll talk about in a moment. He'll very likely be getting more playing time as a striker, so maybe that's what he needs. But
I don't know.
Let's breeze past Brugge and let's breeze past that. So next we had Ankara-Gücü, which was a 1-1 draw.
Yeah.
And actually, here's what I'll say about this before I even disclose anything about the lineup. I will say that Mert Günok played again. Obviously, Ersin, he let in 5 goals against Brugge, blah, blah, blah, blah. But I have to say that the goal that he allows against Ankara-Gücü here is probably worse than any of the goals Ersin allowed. Any of the 5.
I I don't think any of the 5 goals that we allowed against Brugge was on Ersin, right? Like that was
Nope,
just all.
not one.
That was just all.
Like defensive lapses, one-on-one
Maybe
situations.
defensive lapses. It's like there was no defensive line and there was no defending. Like I think you can blame the back 4, but that's a collective issue, right?
I actually have it more on the midfield. That's why I picked on Sally most of all. But like, yeah, that midfield.
The entire
was a
team,
crap
like
show.
I mean, look at Abubakar. Like it's like he's not even standing there. It's like you're playing at 10. This is Abubakar this season. Other than early in the season against Dynamo Kiev and stuff, and even in those games, like it's not like he was great, but like he was doing something. But like
you were almost ready to start talking trash about him in all those games when it was like, okay, he scored. Okay,
I mean, I said this before the season even started. I said I don't think Abubakar will be able to continue what he did last season. That just doesn't seem realistic to me because he wasn't playing very well last season, but he was scoring bangers every game, and that's just not sustainable. I don't think that's sustainable. Scoring goals every game out of nowhere is not sustainable. He needs to play well, be involved, get involved into the link-up play, get into positions. Last season, how many goals did he score where he got into positions? Like where he made a good run and got a true ball or something. Like there's a couple, sure. Like he had a really good goal against Galatasaray where he made his own action, and then against Fenerbahçe he had a similar one, I think, where he got into the positions. But like most of the goals he scored were like individual efforts. And I mean, look, that one against Galatasaray was also an individual effort, really. And yeah, he created his own chances a lot last season, but then he wasn't getting on the end of a lot of balls, I felt, and maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit, but this isn't.
But like this season especially, he's just become so static, and then like when he goes into duels, he often just ends up falling on his ass and like kind of half-assing, like, oh, I got pushed or whatever. Nobody really cares. Yeah,
and I mean, of course, he doesn't really have the delivery, but still, if you expect a striker that doesn't get balls, drops down, gets involved, tries to do something himself, and he's just been standing up top and just like just going through the motions. And you'd expect more from him, right? Because he's supposed to be the star player. He's supposed to be one of the big leaders in that dressing room.
He's probably the guy who's featured in the promo as like the representative, a preseason anyway. Anyway, against Ankara Gücü in Ankara, I guess it's worth noting. So Mert Günok played Kali and Necip again in the back line with Umut Meraş and Onur Bulut. Yeah. With Amir Hadzimetovic, Jedson, and Salih in the midfield, Jackson Muleka and Zaynutdinov on the wings, and Abubakar up top. Which I gotta say, like, obviously you want to see Rosier, but he's suspended for that match, right? Is that the one he was suspended for?
I think he was injured actually.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I thought. Well, either way, he hadn't been banished by then, I don't think. But Umut Meraş was there because Masuaku was injured and remains to be injured. Apparently he's not available on Thursday. But so, obviously Muleka and Zaynutdinov on the wings. I always want to see our boy, our Kazaki guy up there. But like Jackson Muleka on the wing opposite him, like Rebic was an option. I'm surprised he didn't start, I guess. Or even Cenk, who has typically been, gone to before Muleka. But, again, I don't really hate it, I guess.
I mean, honestly, I think at this point, from the games Riza has been in charge, Muleka has been the best striker. Like, yeah. Like
one of the best, like most consistent performers.
Yeah, because ever since that Abubakar became available, the front line hasn't done anything. Muleka has been moved back to the wing, and on the wing, he's trying, he's working hard, but he just doesn't get anything done. I think, just put Rebic on the left, put Muleka on top, and then put whoever on the right. Abubakar right now, there's no point in playing him anymore because he's just not doing anything. And either Muleka up top or Cenk up top, but definitely not Muleka on the wings at the moment. I think you just play Muleka on top.
I would play Muleka on top too, and that's why I mentioned the Cenk thing. I imagine he'll go with Cenk, but I would play Muleka too. But anyway, so finally against Fener, we go out with Mert Günok in the goal. I mean, at that point, it's given, I guess. Bayi and Amartey on the back line with Onur and Umut Meraş.
Yeah.
Necip as the 6. Jedson and Aks up in front of him.
Yeah.
Jackson, Muleka, and Rebic on the wings. And Cenk Tosun up top. Yeah. It's probably worth noting that Umut Meraş was injured in the match.
So was Jedson.
So was Jedson.
Jedson first, and then Umut. I have to point out, but in the last game as well, by the way, Onur managed to make Umut look good. Just let that sink in. Onur made Umut look like a decent player, and Umut for us has not been decent. I mean, he has been in this game.
Before we go even into any sort of analysis on what we've just talked about, all those different lineups that he has had to throw out there, it's worth noting in this coming match on Thursday against Lugano, Mert is injured, Kali is injured, Umut is injured, Masuaku is injured, Jedson, Rashica, and Rebic are all injured. Tayyip,
injured.
Bayi, Rosier, Onana, Ghezal, and Abubakar are not listed. They're Kadri Odishi, and so I guess now we can finally talk about
Tayyip has not been registered, right, because of his ACL injury.
Yeah, exactly. So. That's not. Yeah, exactly. But so that leads us, I think, to our main talking point. So, anything before we do that, anything you want to say about any of those matches, any of those lineups? The reason I wanted to do the lineups was just to show how inconsistent it's been, how much of that's on injury. But then not only that, and you're seeing that more in these last few matches, that there are some mistakes being made by Rize. I think we can both agree, right?
Like what?
For example, right, Semi over Onur on the wing.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But then I'm thinking.
Or Necip at the 6.
Who else do you put there?
Anyone. I don't know.
Do you? I mean, Amir's been horrible this season.
I would play him over Necip though. Or we both talked about how Amartey should play there.
Yeah.
If you're gambling with Necip, I'd rather gamble with Amartey.
I think what Riza wanted was an aggressive 6. Somebody that goes into every and he did to Necip's credit did do that. Evan did point out that whenever we were in possession, he hit from the ball. Maybe that's true, but yeah, I mean, I think Necip wasn't the problem in the Fenerbahçe game. I don't think
he wasn't the problem. I would say he was one of the problems. I think he had a very poorly rated match.
I don't know, man.
Go to the numbers,
he was he was the only player that was really going in 100% in every duel, I think, and at least he made fouls, at least something. Like the other players were just standing there and looking at Fenerbahçe breeze past us, like it was ridiculous. Like you want some fighting spirit, and there wasn't any other than Necip.
You're right that you need fighting spirit, and that he is like a bit of an engine of sorts, but. I just have to note that he was one of the lowest rated players statistically, and there are like a few tiers.
Yes, probably because he made a lot of falls.
He did have a yellow card.
That'll get him
demerits,
that
probably knocked some points for sure. But I mean, I also noted a lot, especially early in the game, when we needed to be starting to find some cohesion and some fluidity and like turning counters into attacks and starting to create something to push back, especially after we went down a goal. The thing that kept breaking up that fluidity were especially Onur. He had a lot of really bad passes that were being cut out.
Horrible.
But Necip had a few too. that was like. But I mean, again,
I mean, I've
not
gone
the
on
problem.
I've gone on
He's
the
not the
record
problem.
saying I never want to see Necip in the midfield. I've been saying this consistently for years, and I'm defending him playing in the midfield right now just because of how.
There's so many other problems that were
Like,
bigger.
yeah.
And that's really what it is.
And I also think that the problems got exacerbated as soon as Jetson was taken off. And I know people were saying like he wasn't playing very well, but Jetson covers so much ground. He is one of the guys that gets into. He doesn't mind going to ground and sliding for a ball and winning the ball back and all that kind of stuff. And as soon as he went out and Sali came in, yeah, you got a better passer on the field, but. And so I think to Salih's credit, like he tried, and early on he did okay, but the second half, of course, you know, we just got blown past completely. Yeah, I mean, look, we're in a really bad situation with all these injuries. I question how serious some of these injuries are, because I kind of feel like when a team isn't this bad of a shape, like players are quick to say, "Oh, I can't play." And of course,
I don't need to go.
Of course, there's a medical staff, but like I think like a guy like, for example, Omar Colley, he'll play with an injury if he can. But I think the majority of the players are like, yeah, no, my big toe hurts. I can't be arsed going out of there. And I mean, I
have a bit of a rash.
I don't know
from my new boots.
I don't know if that's the case, but you know, it's just a pure speculation. But it just feels like that. Like when you're in this sort of a situation, it feels like the injuries all come at the same time. And yeah, I mean, look, we knew going into the season that injuries were going to be a problem when you sign players like Eric Bailly and stuff.
And
Ox,
to Ox's credit,
yeah,
he's actually been really good.
But that's because Ox really wants to make something out of this, and you can tell that in every fiber of the guy's being, he wants to make this work. And I think even when he has a little bit of pain, he says, "I'm playing, and I'm playing through the pain." I'm not saying he has pains. You know, I mean, he's 30. He's 30 years old. He probably has some pains after games. But I think Ox is just, you know, he really wants to make the most out of this. And to his credit, like he's one of the few players I'd keep, honestly. If we
he's been the only surprised, like, and he was someone who I was against more than any others.
Oh yeah.
And when he came, because it was like, oh, this injury prone kind of like,
what
is this whole story about how he wants to come so bad that he's like paying for his airplane ticket and like all this weird, you know, it was like a rocky start, but he's by far been the like maybe the only good side. But anyway, so like you're absolutely right, and I think again a good segue here is that there are gigantic, huge morale issues in that locker room. And something's been done about it, right? Like this is probably the time to go into that. Why don't you break the news, Kaan? I mean, as if people don't know. I'm sure.
I mean, it's the first big move from the new board, right, or from the new people in charge of the football branch. You know, obviously, Hassan Arat, Feas Uçar, and Samet Aybaba, who's the coordinator of football. Samet Aybaba is not part of the board. Feas Uçar is the board member responsible for the football branch, but Samet Aybaba is the football coordinator. So he's like, he oversees, you know, the teams, the youth teams, I mean, you know, I guess he oversees all the football teams, whatever. And there was a meeting before the Fenerbahçe game, and we even saw pictures of this, that, you know, Hasan Arat, the president, Feas Uçar, Samet Aybaba, they were all present, they were talking to the players. You know, obviously the desired reaction against Fenerbahçe wasn't there. And a big decision was made after the game that a bunch of players would be dropped for various reasons, disciplinary and form-related reasons. So I think 5 players were dropped from the team. Vincent Aboubakar was dropped. Valentin Rosier was dropped. Sean Onana was dropped. And I think those 3 were mainly dropped for disciplinary reasons. And then Rachid Ghazal was also dropped. That was mainly due to his injuries and his just not just not being able to get back on form. And then who was the fifth? Was there a fifth?
Gazelle, did you not mention?
Yeah,
Gazelle?
I just mentioned
Abu. So it was Bailly, Rosier.
Bailly, yeah, Eric Bailly. And look, Eric Bailly, get him out as soon as possible.
And so,
honestly,
officially, it was it's like performance related. Like the players were either not good enough, or and they said something like struggling with like cohesion in the locker room. I forgot the wording exactly, but it was something to that effect. Which is, I guess, what you were calling like disciplinary.
Yeah.
And so I would actually argue that Onana could be more in the like not good enough department. We don't know if he was like a bad seed or anything, but he was clearly not good enough to play.
I don't know. I think there's definitely an Aboubakar connection there, because obviously Aboubakar recommended bringing him in. They're both Cameroon internationals, so there's definitely a connection there. I think.
I guess what I mean to say is it's speculative to say that he had disciplinary issues.
Yeah.
It's clear that he wasn't good enough, so we'll just leave that on him for now. But
clear he wasn't good enough. He's had how many chances to play, right?
2, maybe 3. Yeah, exactly.
Got to give a guy a decent run in the team before you can say he's not good.
That's true.
For us to say that, obviously coaches can say it if they see them in training day to day, and if he's not getting any chances, there's probably a reason for it. He probably isn't good enough, but we as I don't think we as fans can judge based on the amount of minutes we've seen.
You're right. I misspoke. You're right. I assume he's not good enough based on the fact that he's not getting any playing time. But who knows? Maybe it's because he's like such a dickhead in the locker room. Maybe he's like the ringleader. The yeah, exactly.
I highly doubt it, but yeah.
I do too. He actually seems like a quiet guy, so it's a bit surprising to be honest. But anyway, so this is a conversation that, like, for example, like tore our group chat apart. Right?
Got
people
for sure.
Real worked up.
Yeah.
With takes on like whether it was an appropriate move, whether or not my whole thing is the professionalism aspect, and I expect it both ways. Obviously, these guys were not professionals, but in turn, that means that I would say that the right thing to do is you sit them down, you give them a warning. Like, dude, you're being a dickhead in training.
I think
I
think it's too late.
Keep that up, and you're out.
I think it's too late for
I'm
warnings.
saying, clearly now it is. It's done. But I'm saying what I would do, because it's like, look, if you come in day 1 or day 3 or whatever it is, you sit down and you pull people in individually and you say straight up, like, your problem is locker room bullshit. Like, keep that up. We're gonna put you aside. Literally.
They did have him. There's pictures and everything of
If they did that,
I'm not saying they did that exactly, but there were talks with players individually. There's a picture of Hassan Arad talking to Aboubakar and stuff like that. So
the one thing I'll say though, it's clear that they did not do that with Ghazal or Bailly, the two guys who have been outspoken about how Rosier too, who said. He learned from the announcement, right?
Yeah.
So that's not cool. That's my only thing. And the only reason I say that is I run a company here in the States, right? Or I have historically. I don't do it so much these days actively, but you can't fire someone, for example, without giving them a very thorough explanation, right? There are labor laws in place that don't allow it, and even demotion.
You can't
even demote
that,
someone. Well, the point being is that's a standard of professionalism that goes across all industries, and it should be the standard with us. And I'm going to hold the new management to the same extent. It just is, though. That's not how.
That's not how it works in the football world. It really isn't. It really.
Well,
isn't.
the way that those 3 players have reacted makes it seem that they certainly would have expected as much for whatever reason, and they've come from other clubs where that was obviously the standard as such. So say what you will.
It isn't. It really isn't. It really isn't. Players get sent to the C team constantly without being talked to. At the biggest clubs in the world, that's not something that is a standard at all. I would say. it's really different in the football world, especially given the situation we are in. This isn't just a situation of one guy acting out and the rest of the team going on their merry way and doing okay. This is a team where there's a really big issue in the dressing room, where players aren't willing to play for each other anymore, where there seems to be a rift. Look at the reaction from Aboubakar's personal trainer, immediately putting a comparison up from Aboubakar and Cenk. That is something that's been festering. Like, Aboubakar and Cenk are guys that go back a long way and are supposed to be friends. Like, there's something big going on.
Don't care. I really don't. For me, it's a matter of, like I said, professionalism. And I don't agree that doesn't happen in other places, because I know for a fact that it has happened in other places. I can't say it's the standard for all the big clubs, because I don't know. But I do know that it is something that has happened in a number of instances, A. But B, I also think that it's not smart business. Like, we're in a situation where there needs to be a new coach coming in January. And that new coach should have the opportunity to talk to every individual and make the decision with whatever input he gets from the new guys, from people in charge. And I think that's the scenario where you have a clean slate. And in that scenario, you sell the guys. Nothing needs to be broadcast in this way. And I don't think it's good business. I think it shows a lack of professionalism, personally. It's something that I personally would never do to one of my employees.
Yeah, but it's not the same.
Because of what it does to morale. And I think you underestimate, like, sure, like, this is a group of friends, but I'm sure that they are also friends with other individuals within the team. And I think there are a lot of guys who are probably like, that's weird. It's going to lead to awkwardness.
These guys aren't being banished forever. Feas Uçer said we will talk to them, but that's a pretty big caveat. I'll grant that. Like, if in fact they've been told that there's like a way for them, it all depends on.
Sure.
Yeah, but then I think, like, look, the reactions that you see in social media. Look, Gezal, I'm gonna defend. Like, I get him completely. Like, his treatment is unfair, 100%, because he's being dropped from the team purely.
I think Rosier is too. Like, people are mad that his friend wrote like.
I don't care
his friend
about
is just being a loyal friend.
I don't care about
his friend. Is just being a loyal friend. I don't think he gives a shit about like the club or anything.
I don't care about his friend. Doesn't matter to me.
Exactly.
But Rosier, I love Rosier. He's one of my favorite players. I think he's one of the best players on the team. I am really disappointed by him being dropped, but I don't think you drop one of your best players without a reason. There needs to be a reason there. Maybe it's a case of he comes late to training all the time.
Sure.
And there's a lot of issues with that.
Like, there needs to be, all right, like, and to be fair, right, you don't want to devalue guys even further, so you can't air everything out in public. So, like, I think for people who are saying, like, they've got to be more transparent, that comes with a grain of salt. I just, again, like, already, so Aboubakar was taken out of the starting lineup, has been taken out. I mentioned earlier Jackson Malika played instead of him, and then against Fener, he didn't start. Like, I think you can phase guys out and show them that you mean business. Maybe even separate them in training, but, like, in training, like, have them over there doing something else, whatever it is. But, like, there's just, I feel like there's a better way for this to have been handled. And I'm not saying this because I'm trying to, like, develop an agenda against the guys, like, against the new guys at all. I know that apparently, like, I wasn't aware of the fact that Samet Aybaba had some beef with, like, Quaresma. So, like, for some, obviously, I'm not going to name any names, but
he didn't
for
have
some
a
people,
beef with Quaresma. That's not true.
But that's what they were saying in the group chat. Again, I knew nothing about it. None of it. Like, I have no agendas for or against anyone. I just personally feel like there must have been a better way for this to be handled. And I get that. I really hope that this isn't a case of scapegoating individuals, because and I think it's really important to mention that if you're singling guys out for like not playing to a certain standard performance-wise, there are most certainly guys who have played significantly worse for much more consistent stretches, like Onur Bulut. And others, but I don't, like Tayfur Bingöl's performances have gotten completely into the gutter for much of the season. To be honest, I think he's had a few splashes here and there, but
I think he's doing what you expect from him in most of the games, but then. Recently it wasn't that good, but whatever. But the thing is, we have already gone through. This is our third coach. We're gonna have a fourth coach soon. Beşiktaş generally are a club that doesn't fire coaches easily.
Yeah.
If you compare us to our rivals, and you compare the amount of coaches we've had in the last decade, and you compare the amount of coaches they've had in the last decade. Look, I'm not saying that we don't fire coaches. We do, but usually we give them a season or even a season and a half or whatever. We've gone first. Şenol Güneş was resigned or was fired, whatever. Resigned. Then Burak Yılmaz was appointed as caretaker, but he was fired after a couple of games. Now Riza is appointed as caretaker, and he's obviously going to get replaced in January. And throughout these managerial changes, there has been zero reaction from the team. Because I remember us looking for it. The first game Burak was in charge was Istanbulspor. We won that game, but we didn't see a proper reaction from the team. We didn't suddenly see players waking up and smelling the coffee. And, we all thought, okay, the big issue here is Şenol. Because Şenol is creating a divide. And is beefing with players and all that kind of stuff, and is acting like a moron and blah and blah and blah. But Şenol's been gone for a few months now, and nothing has changed. On the contrary, I think things have even gotten worse. And look, I'm not saying Şenol isn't responsible for this, because I do.
Yeah, don't. Yeah, exactly.
What I think is Şenol had issues with players.
I think he created this mess.
Yeah, I think he had issues with certain players in the locker room. Some players banded together. That created a rift between the Turks and some of the foreigners, and I think that's what we're seeing right now. I think what we're seeing right now is that we've got a locker room that's completely, doesn't want to play for each other. Like, it's very important when you're on the pitch with 11 players that they're all willing to go through fire for each other and fight for each other. Because we all say, oh, okay, they have to fight for the fans and they have to do it for this and this and that. But when you're playing with people you don't get along with, you don't like, you even like despise maybe to an extent. Like there's like when there's it's how do you expect people to work together in that kind of that just doesn't work. And then you have to make, as a club, you've had already 3 coaches. It's changed nothing. There's always, when you fire a coach or when you replace a coach, the big thing in football is shock effect. And you expect that change to shock the locker room into a reaction. And you want to see a reaction for 4 or 5 games. And then hopefully from those 4 or 5 games, you can build and go on a run and extend it. We haven't seen that reaction whatsoever. We haven't seen it when Burak took over. We haven't seen it when Riza took over. And I think it doesn't matter who you bring in.
I'm with you on that 100%, actually.
So I think the only option the club had left, because this is always the thing in the football world. What happens when a team is playing poorly? What do? They fire the coach. But the coach, like, and this is what I completely disagreed with Evran. Because everyone said something bonkers like it's never the players' fault or something along those lines. And that is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard, because the players, more often than not, are the problem. The problem is you can't fire 5, 6, 7, 8 players, because that's capital destruction. You're destroying their own value. And how realistic is it to replace 8 guys in January? It just isn't, especially in our circumstance, but in any club's circumstance.
No, and that's why I would have taken a much more passive-aggressive approach, and I would have said, okay, we're starting from the ground up right now. Like, especially after the performance against Fener, I would have had a team-wide meeting and said, you've all lost your positions as starters. We're looking to our academy, and we're going to play, Semi and that Arda kid on the wing and Demir Ege, and like we're literally like we're gonna start on the presumption that they now are going to be a more cohesive unit than you guys can be, and each one of you individually can earn a spot back on that rotation or in that squad, but you have to show it on the training ground, and if you do get a chance in a game, you have to show it in those matches, and if you don't, like, that's it. We have to do like a wholesale. We're rebuilding. We're in rebuild mode starting now, and like that would have been my approach, honestly. And I would have kept every single one of those dudes to the same standard, and I would have made a point, and I would have done this publicly for those fucking guys who are fucking around. I would have said, you guys are laughing and training or whatever the fuck it is that you're doing,
coming late, whatever,
whatever they're doing, getting hair transplants, whatever the fuck. Like if you pull that shit, you're not gonna play, and like and I would go to those individuals and say, like, but I would also make a point of saying, you are the most talented player on this team, like Abubakar, my friend. You are one of the more generational talents to play for Besiktas. You need to play to that standard. You need to hold yourself to that standard, and you need to recognize your role within this team. If you are functioning at a high level, the team is. And like, you've proven that already. And if you can't do that, then you're not, like, again, you have to earn that spot again, because you've proven that, like, for too long you've shown that you can fuck around and not put in that effort. But like, again, like,
I agree with you for the most part. I don't agree. I think that you have to cut the head off the snake, and I think Abubakar had to be dropped. Like, regardless of how you handle it, I think he had to be dropped.
Absolutely.
I mean, you cannot justify what he getting a hair transplant mid-season, man. Like, what the hell?
Oh man,
come on,
that's garbage. And in his defense, maybe he was injured and was like using injury time to do that, but it's still like
you don't do that. That's fucked up.
You shouldn't.
That's fucked up. No, I mean, he has to go. And I love Abubakar, but no. That's just like. That's just not acceptable.
I just mean that.
And he has.
While I was doing my whole speech, the guys who they felt they needed to be cut are the guys who I would have singled out the most in that speech.
Look.
But I would be trying to hold the most accountable long term, as far as like, if you have any chance of recapturing that form, and frankly, especially in the case of a guy like Abubakar, but I mean maybe even more so Rashid Ghezal, if you ever want to retain the level that you've played at, and like have sort of any more longevity as far as your career goes.
That's not happening. Come on, let's be honest.
It's done. I mean, there certainly seems.
Ghezal deserved more. He deserved to be said, look, Rashid, we've been trying for 6 months. You're not getting fit again. We need to move you on. We love you. You've done a lot for this club, but at this point, we've gotten to a point where we need to look at a new, younger player who can deliver and who can stay fit. And in January, we're going to tear up your contract. We're really sorry, but due to the foreign limit, we can't keep you until the end of the season. That is the conversation that should have been had with Rashid Ghezal. Yeah. Eric Bailly, you just say, look, we took a gamble on you. You are constantly injured. We should have known before. This was the previous board's decision, of course. They should have known. It was a gamble to sign you. It's not worked out. In our last game, I don't know what you were thinking, but you gave away 2 amateur penalties.
They were so goofy. He's just such a goofball, man. Like,
I mean, look. Normally, I would say, okay, everyone can make a mistake, but for him, I just have no patience, because he's either injured, like he's injured legitimately, like what, 60% of the games so far. And to his credit, he has been really good in the games that he played so far. But then
even in them, there's always been these moments where he'll do like a spin move on the ball, and it'll come off, but you're like,
that could have gone easily.
Too much fun.
Yeah, that could have easily gone a different way. But I think, like, look, if you're in this situation as a player where you're you're weighing the team down in a different way. You're weighing the team down because you are a quality player and you should be playing every game, but you're constantly injured. Look, it's not his fault that he's constantly injured. He doesn't look like a guy who doesn't train and who doesn't treat his body well. Like, he looks like an athlete. So I legitimately believe that it's not his bad eating habits or whatever, or he lives unprofessionally. I think he just has elastics for muscles and stuff like that. Like, you know, like Arjen Robben. Arjen Robben was one of the biggest professionals, but and did everything to stay fit, but couldn't stay fit. You know, he was constantly injured. And you just have people like that, people with those types of bodies that just, they break down. It's just the way it is.
My theory is actually that he probably, at some point when he was more youthful and thought he could do it, like, played through a few too many injuries, like overdid it, you know, and just, you know, like killed his ligaments or whatever.
Definitely possible. I don't know. I mean, obviously pure speculation, but yeah, it's a perfect possibility. Because when you're young, you think you can do anything, and you just, I'll bite through the pain, whatever. But you fuck yourself up for later. And then when you turn like 35 or whatever, okay, by is 30 or whatever, but like when you get a little later in life, suddenly your back is shot, or your knees are shot, or whatever. But look, now with Bailly, I'm at a point where, look, he needs to go in January. Aboubakar needs to go, I think. I mean, look, maybe I think he needs to go anyway, because I think we need a striker that can carry the front line, and he just hasn't been doing it. And he's an amazing like goal scorer. Like, the types of goals he scored are amazing, but like we need more from our striker in open play. We need more contribution. We need more weighing on the opposition. We need link-up play. Look at the Fenerbahçe game. Look at Dzeko. How much problems was he causing as he was dropping down, winning the ball, holding up the ball, passing the ball to his teammates in good positions. Like, that is what you need, and scoring on top of that, and being a goal threat. Like, that is what you need.
And like living, like, you could see how. I mean, a bunch of those guys were really enjoying the whole derby environment. Like, we really put on a show for them to have their moment in, fucker.
But yeah, so I think that there was I think the decision that was made, it could have been handled better for sure. For Ghezal, it should have been handled better. I think for a guy like Rosier, this is just a final wake-up call. I don't know what he's been doing behind the scenes, but clearly there's something. Clearly there's something, and I think this is just what their last attempt at trying to shock them. Because talking to guys sometimes, like a guy like Aboubakar, who has so much power in the club, he thinks he's untouchable. And I don't think talking to him is gonna solve anything. I think you need to send a really clear message, like, this is it. If you don't stop fucking around, you're gonna you can go back to Saudi, and that's what it looks like. He's gonna go back to Saudi Arabia or whatever in January probably, and maybe Rosier will go to France. And that is one thing I agree with you on, is that you're killing your own negotiating position, because I think I think all of these guys have very little value other than Rosier. Rosier is 26 or 27 now. He is one of our best players. He should be giving you 7 million at least, and I think that's a bargain for him because he's really good. We played less, obviously, but like, look, Rosier needs to bring money into the club because he's one of our players that is worth something.
And like, think about like the guys that Fener and Galatasaray have been able to make money off of, and frankly, like, I think most of them can't hold a candle to Rosier. It's a shame that we're not going to cash in, and I think like it's a shame that people started thinking that Bowie was better than Rosier and stuff like that, because like, no, man, Rosier has been consistently a really top performer, and like he had a little dip at one point, like that people were, I think, overemphasizing.
Even when he was bad in people's eyes, he was still one of the better players. He just he wasn't like in his first season with Gezal, he was getting a lot of assists and stuff like that, and he was scoring a couple of goals, and people expected that he would continue that. But the next season we were really bad as a team, and it's hard to expect him then to still get the same numbers of assists and goals. It's just not going to happen.
I can't tell my daughter about Rosier. She has 2 of his jerseys now. When she found out that he changed his number this year when we went to Turkey, she's like, "Oh, I gotta get his jersey again." Like she was in her whole "Oh, he's a child of Besiktas."
But the thing is, for me, it's not because a player leaves that suddenly everything they did is erased, right? Rosier will always be one of our best. I think we will look back at Rosier in 5 years' time as one of the best right backs we've ever seen at the club. Maybe I can't really think of a better one right now off the top of my head. Yeah, Gökhan Gönül, I guess.
I was gonna say
it's between him and Gökhan, right? And the difference
is it's a good battle if you really put them side to side.
So for sure. But yeah, I get where you're coming from, but I think that talking.
I would just want to leave a door for anyone, especially, and as we go over this, it's just for Valentine, my guy, But it's just that door for him to repair and salvage thing, because look, you're absolutely right. Look, Gezal, we should absolutely have treated better, but it's time to part ways. In fact, he's probably number 1 on the list, regardless of anything. If none of this had happened, and we were making a list of guys who have to go,
he had to go. He has to go in January, regardless, to make room for new players. That's just the way it is. That's the way it works with the foreign limit. I think.
And Onana, I would have wanted to loan out, in all fairness, because we never saw him. But I don't mind him leaving necessarily.
Yeah, I mean, look, he cost us 4 million, so I think the best thing is to loan him out and hope that he does well elsewhere, and that we can salvage as much of that 4 million as possible. I mean, look, if you just want to get rid of him completely, I mean, I think it's going to be difficult because he's supposedly on a pretty big wage. It was never communicated, but supposedly 1.5 million a year, which is absolutely bonkers if you think about it. It's more than Getson got. Getson got more now because he extended his contract, but But yeah, I mean, look, Onana has to go, Gezal has to go, Bailly has to go simply because
basically has to go.
Yeah, he has to go because you want your best defender to be able to play almost every game. You want to Vida.
He's only on 6 months of. He was only on a 1-year contract.
He was,
He's gone.
And the experiment failed. Let's be honest. The club gambled on him, which was ridiculous. In the first place, because it was a foregone conclusion that he wouldn't stay fit. We all knew it. Everyone knew it, except for those idiots who were making the decisions. They didn't know it.
Insult to injury is that we picked him basically over Davinson Sanchez, at least according to the rumors. And that guy has been excellent. Yeah,
but he cost nearly 10 million euros. Let's be honest.
Oh, is that right? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay,
he cost a ridiculous amount of money, and he's worth it. Don't get me wrong. He's 27 years old. He's a top defender.
And a great build, right? Very physical.
Yeah. But that's the difference, right? That's the difference between our position and where we had to they were scrambling and panic, and so they went for the free transfer. And that's just
you had me at 10 mil.
I mean, no, I'm not saying he's not worth it. I'd want him. I'm for sure. Or someone like him. I think we need to stop screwing around, always trying to go for these bargain bin players. And because every summer it's the same thing. Every summer it's we need a defender. We need a central defender. It's always a central defender and always a striker.
Look at the hits. I mean, except for Rosier, who's actually the perfect profile of a guy you get at the right time and you build him up, and we could theoretically sold him and made a lot of money. But except for that, look at Gezal, right? We got a great season out of him. Still a bit injury prone, but he played most of it. And then we're yo, this is our man right now. He's the future of the club. Let's throw a ton of money at him. same thing. Like, look at Ox. That's like literally what we'd probably be about to do right now, right? Like, we're like, oh my god, at least we've got one guy. And then like, as soon as we need to rely on him, those injuries will start taking their toll, you know.
Oh, but I think Ox will have plenty of suitors.
I hope. Yeah.
I think Ox will finish this season. Hopefully, have a good second half of the season, and I think he will go back to the Premier League next season, because I think despite the fact that we suck balls, Ox doesn't, and he has been a model professional, and I think he is. Obviously, he's giving his all for the club and for the fans, but he's also playing for himself. He's playing to put himself back in the spotlight. And he signed a 3-year contract, but I think he is.
That just means we'll get some money.
I think he will go to Newcastle or something next season.
That's a good call.
I think he'll go. Yeah, I mean, Newcastle were interested in the summer, but it never really materialized. I think there was a lot of reluctance from Premier League clubs for the same reason that we as fans were reluctant to sign him, because of the injury history. I think if he has a good second half of the season consistently, gets plenty of minutes, doesn't get injured, I think Premier League clubs will
I was going to say, all he has to do now, because he's actually already put together a fairly impressive little highlight reel. If you take some of his little runs
and the fact, he just got in
now his goal, goal against Samson, against Ankara Gucu was beautiful.
It was a great goal, and the goal against Galatasaray, don't forget that one.
Now he's got the penalty in the derby. Like, he's got a fancy little highlight reel.
He does.
Just stay healthy and play consistently, and it's like, okay, you've checked off the box. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
I mean, and I won't be sad if he goes. I won't.
And he's getting attention. He's getting attention from the UK still. Like, Sky Sports coming to interview him. Like, they're following him. They're keeping tabs. And you can bet your bottom dollar that if the media in the UK are keeping tabs, the clubs are as well. And I'm pretty sure that there will be offers for him in the summer. Well, don't expect the big bucks, but maybe 5 million or something, which would be good. I think. I mean, look, I think Ox is maybe our best player right now. Other than Rosier, but it also gives us some headache, because I think we all can agree that we need a 10, and Ox kind of plays that role right now, but he's not really. And Jetson. I mean, Jetson hasn't been great recently, but he's coming off an injury, and I don't think he's obviously against Fenerbahçe, I think he came back too soon, but I think a fully fit Jetson is another player that. Clubs will be looking at, because let's be honest. And this is, I think part of our downfall, drop off further from, because in the beginning of the season we weren't this bad, and I think one of the main reasons for that was Getson was really good, and then Jetson got injured, and suddenly we start slipping really, really badly, because I think Jetson was masking a lot of the lack of grinta and lack of.
What Jetson is, despite obviously the lack of finishing, which we've joked about, but he's an eraser, right? By which I mean, you make a mistake, a mispass, whatever it is, and he might even be the one who does that, but he'll be the one who goes back as far and as fast and is put as much into it as it needs to fix that, get the ball back. He's a very reliable.
He's the
engine.
If you talk about playing any form of gegenpressing or anything like that, or you want to play high tempo football with fast ball recovery, someone like Jetson is a godsend. But of course he needs to be fit, and unfortunately, fitness is a big issue for us again
these days.
I mean, when has it not been, right? Like, it feels like in the 2020 so far we have had ridiculous injury spell after ridiculous injury spell. Remember, even in the championship season, how many players we were out at a certain point, and then the season after that, how many players were injured, and again now, there's been such a big issue with injuries.
So all right, this is actually the perfect probably end point for the episode. And it's a good segue. Speaking of injuries, so what are your predictions for our lineup against Lugano? And I want to remind you, we don't have Mert, so no Mert. So probably Ersin in goal.
Ersin, right? Yeah.
No Kali.
Yeah.
So probably what, Necip and Amarte?
Maybe. I mean, look, I think Riza needs to get off his ass and start playing some kids, man. Like he
I don't
needs
see
to,
why not. This would be
Aitu?
the perfect time.
Aitu. He should play Aitu, I think. Demir Ege. He should play Semi. Muleka. I wouldn't play Cenk. I would rest Cenk. Maybe put Arda on. And this one.
There's no Rashica, no Rebic.
Yeah,
so,
Rasička.
and no Gezal.
What's up with Rasička, by the way? What's that?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, look, I've been critical of him, but like that's another one of those things. Like he's supposed to be one of your wingers this season, and he's like, yeah, I don't know, man. Like that's another one I would just get rid of, honestly. I mean, he's not been good when he played, and now he's just injured all the time. Like, I don't know what to do with him.
Not a good look.
And
although,
is Rebic out? Like I didn't even.
Yeah, he's injured now too.
I mean, you said it, but I didn't read anything about it. But I guess everything just kind of got lost in the craziness of it all.
And it could be that they're used like you say, like a, like foot rash or something. Like I mean, it's just, and they're just like let's put some kids out. Like because at this point with no Rashica, no Rebic, no Gezal. So it means that like
we legitimately don't have wingers at the moment, right?
And with no Umut and no Rosier, like Onur has to play as right back.
Is Tayfur fit? Is he fit?
Tayfur is fit.
Sorry,
so
that was
I'm guessing,
a dog.
I heard that. But so I'm guessing it's Onur and Tayfur as our fullbacks, sadly.
Yeah.
But so that means the wings are wide open. It's like Semi has to play.
Yeah, Semi, Arda, you would imagine.
It's got to be both of those kids. We need two wingers, and we have none. I mean, or maybe it's like Muleka and Cenk up top, but then so like one of those kids has to play. There's no way he can get away from it this time because he's got no Abubakar.
Yeah.
So Cenk or Muleka has to play.
And Getson's out as well, right?
Jetson's
out.
Jetson's out.
Yeah. Ox in midfield.
I mean, we're gonna get Ox with like Demir Ege
and Amir maybe, because I think
maybe
Salih is Salih injured?
No, actually, Salih's
what is
not.
she doing? It's like she's like shaking her head like a crazy dog. All right, just making noises. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's gonna be a pickle for Riza. Look, I mean, this is also one of those things, like, because everyone was super harsh on Riza. It's like, oh, he hasn't changed anything, he hasn't tried anything, and yeah, okay, he hasn't really, but like, look at what he's had available. Like all.
I mean, dude, not to contradict you, this whole episode, but I mean, to be honest, and that's kind of why I went through all the lineups only. Because those have actually changed every match.
Yeah, but I mean, those are forced.
Not because of choice.
Those are forced changes.
Entirely injury, yeah. No, and like there are some mistakes, obviously, like some things that we would have rather not seen. But at the end of the day, like it's slim picking.
I think for the people who have been following Semi Kılıçsoy a little for the last year or two, because he's been like, kind of been knocking on the door of the first team since he's 16, and he's 18 now. So like he's been really, he's been noticed for a while now. I mean, obviously people who follow the academy closely have been keeping an eye on him longer than that. But like for people who peripherally kind of follow the academy, he's been starting to like, seep in there. Like I first took notice like I think 2 years ago. I think around the same time everyone was taking notice as well. And Rachel Vidoria. Sorry. Yeah, so it's like we want to see him, obviously, but yeah, like I kind of have some mixed feelings about that. Like everyone's just like he wants to see him, whatever, he wants to see him. Period. I'm kind of like I don't know if I want to have that kid being thrown to the lions in this because like I know how fucking harsh our fans are, and myself included, because I was really not happy when Demir Ege started against Club Brugge, and I really didn't like his performance. But then if you take a step back and look at it from a I mean, look, I think Demir Ege has something, but I don't think he has what it takes to be a Beşiktaş player. I think Semi is different. I think Semi has what it takes. But obviously, we already saw this kind of... Remember when he didn't give that pass to Rebic? and Rebic got really angry at him. But then afterwards, and I think that's perfectly fine. I think Rebic did what he had to do. That's good. Put the kid back with his feet on the ground. But afterward, the abuse Simi got on social media, on his own ridiculous. Instagram, from our own fans, that is something that makes me think twice before I say I really want to see Simi right now, because I don't think you're doing the kid a lot of favors, because there's not a lot of people there that are gonna feed him the ball. I don't know how big the chance is that he's going to score goals, get an assist, in this team right now. And I think you're just doing him a disservice rather than giving him a chance to show. Obviously, you're giving him a chance, but I don't think. I don't know, man. I think it might be a poisoned gift, if that makes sense.
No, it does. It totally does. And I think because of what you're saying about our fans, that's why we were all so skeptical about the vote, which kind of restored my faith a little bit. No, you're right. We might not be doing him any favors. That said, like I said though, one of those kids has to play.
He has to play against Lugano. There's no excuse now. Whatever reasoning you might have had to not put him in, now there's gonna be
there's literally nobody else. He has to play Onur as a fullback because we don't have anyone else, and he has to play. I mean, he can play Muleka on the wing, or he can play Cenk on the wing, but one of them has to play striker because there's no more Abu. So it's literally, dude, there's what I mean. That's why I was talking about the lineup with you. That's why I wanted to do it, just to show that there's no way unless Rebic is out too, right? So one of these kids has to play against Lugano. So that's one thing we can get excited about. And it's actually worth noting that this is probably the last Besiktas we're going to see for
a while. Yeah, because of the thing that we should probably talk about this as well, right? Like what happened in the Ankara Gücü game. After, I think it was after the game, right? The president of Ankara Gücü, Faruk Koca, decided to walk up to the referee, punch him in the face, full closed fist, and then proceed to kick the guy on the floor. And look, it was.
And what's worse is his little cronies came and started kicking him in the head too. This was disgraceful.
It was the referee was Halil Umut Meher, by the way, who I think Beşiktaş fans aren't super keen on either. And look, there have been situations where I think like Cem Papila back in the day, I think he fully would have deserved that. But this is different. He gave a red card that you can question, but it's not like it's not like it was like a proper screw job a la Cem Papila, right? So there's no excuse for this, of course. And then to think this is Ankara Gücü again, this same guy. This Faruk Koca is the same guy that bailed that piece of shit fan out that tried to karate kick Cenk, and that Joseph put down on the floor because the security in that fucking Ankara stadium can't do shit. Yeah, and then Joseph got suspended. So look. I mean, I shouldn't be, but I am kind of gleeful about all this. I really. This is so deserved for
exposes
this
scum.
This is so deserved for the Turkish Football Federation, not for the referee, obviously. I hope he's okay. Terrible, but this is just what the Turkish Football Federation 100% deserves. This Ankara Gücü 100% deserve this, and they deserve everything that's gonna happen to them now. I hope they get relegated to the fucking 4th division or something. Yeah, which they won't. Let's be honest. Last time we got punished rather than they got punished. So let's be honest. Maybe something will happen this time because this has become world news. I had Aiden yesterday afternoon, so I was busy. But I opened my mail at 4:00 in the afternoon and had 2 emails. One from CNN. And one from a radio show in the UK somewhere. So I had an email from CNN World and an email from somewhere else to come on for an interview. I missed both because I opened my mail too late. But this is world news. This is going around the globe. So they can't ignore this. They have to do something now. And this is so karma.
as good as it is on the karma side, that's also obviously the bad side. Is like the reputational damage that this does to the whole country.
Yeah.
Honestly.
And now the league has been suspended, obviously, until because the referees are not willing to go out
on
there.
strike.
Yeah, they're
They're
on strike,
on strike.
and rightfully so. We both. I mean, we know Turkish refs. Everyone hates Turkish refs, but at the end of the day, they're still human beings, and they don't deserve. I mean, okay, sometimes there's like a Jem Papila situation, but they don't deserve to be assaulted like that. There's no excuse for that. Like the guy just like closed fist punched him, sucker punched him, right? Because like it's not even like you're in a fight or anything. He just walked up to him and punched him in the face. It's like.
Yeah, and his explanation was even more disgraceful, honestly, where he was like, "Oh, I only saw red because I was so."
I mean,
and then the fans cheering him on and him accepting praise and all of that.
Yeah. I mean, look, this guy needs to be banned for life from football. Should never be allowed anywhere near a football stadium again. Lifetime ban. There nothing. If they do anything except a lifetime ban, it's an absolute disgrace. And then Ankaragücü, the club, should be relegated.
Or at least there should be like a massive point deduction where it's like basically impossible for them to recover.
They need to be relegated because this is not the first time Ankaragücü causes issues. Like I said, last season they had a fan running up the pitch, trying to karate. I don't know if he was trying to karate kick Cenk or the referee. I don't remember. And then. Yeah, like and
then the owner bailed him out.
And then
made him a martyr.
Exactly. And Ankaragücü didn't get punished. Like what did they get? Like did they get any games without fans? I don't even remember. Nothing happened. Like nothing.
The guy got like his visa. He got his passport taken
wasn't
away.
allowed to leave the country for a year. Exactly. Like a glue sniffer that has never that probably doesn't even own a car. You know,
piece of shit. Yeah, in that way.
Exactly. I mean, look, if you sniff glue for a hobby, all power to you and go ahead. But like, come on, man.
I don't know. You should probably not do that.
You probably shouldn't. But
if you listen to us and you want to like take us seriously as people, my advice to you is don't do that. Don't sniff glue.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I'm not judging you. I don't hate you or anything like that. But don't
sniff paint thinner. If you're a real big fan.
Yeah, I mean, or like just get some cigarettes or something, man. Like if you have a vice like that, just find a like slightly less destructive outlet. But
So the league is suspended. So how long is that gonna last?
Definitely suspended.
And this pisses me off, by the way, because we're almost at the end of this painful ride where. In January, we get the clean house, bring in some new exciting players, and hopefully have a good second half of the season. If these games get suspended now and get moved up to next year, that means we have to play those games without any new signings. So it just moves
double-edged sword. Yeah.
It's bullshit. It's complete and utter bullshit. I think if they
so they have not yet officially canceled the matches for the week after next, and which is probably like they're hoping that they can, make some bullshit like concessions.
Well,
to the
if
refs,
they
we'll put in more security,
they need to make an example of this guy. And even if they weren't making an example out of him, a lifetime ban is a must. Like even if you're not making an example of him, if a fan does this, they never enter a stadium again. Why should this guy ever enter a stadium again?
And let's just get better security in these scenarios. Like, why are these people being allowed to just like run up and I mean, to be fair, it's the president of the club. Like, even a security guard would be like, is this guy's not seriously going to? You know what I mean? Like,
look. This is the thing, right? In Turkey, this guy is the president of Ankaragücü, so him getting a lifetime stadium ban.
It needs to happen.
a lifetime ban. I don't know if he should, but is it gonna happen? Because this is fucking Turkey.
I mean, he should be going to jail for assault if we're gonna be 100%.
He should be for sure. He has to pay. He should be paying the referee damages. And on top of that, he needs to be like the lifetime ban is just like you can't.
No, you're right, and you're right. I mean, no,
that's
you're
the bare minimum. The bare minimum
should absolutely be relegated. I mean. I just, realistically speaking, I feel like the way they try to do that is by giving like a huge point deduction.
I mean,
so they give like a negative 30.
I mean,
so they're
normally,
basically guaranteed.
if this was like
relegation.
look, I mean, I kind of, it's a double thing, right? Like, because it's an individual doing something, should an entire club be punished for it? Normally, I would say no, but aangekeken with their history, I'm sorry, but
I mean, certainly a fan ban. You know what I would do? I would give them like a negative 30-point deduction and say no fans for the rest of the season.
I mean, like,
so it's basically like,
yeah, but the fans
you have to
the
play
fa-
your game.
yeah, but it's not like the
particular
fans.
players.
The fans didn't attack the referee, right? It's. So I don't know if you can actually. I mean, yeah. I mean, look,
true. It
the
was the
fans,
president.
the fans supported the assault, but you know that's
No chair people in the stadium. No, that's geez, yeah.
I don't know.
uh,
I think realistically,
you know what was worse too? I don't know if you saw this though, but Emre Belözoğlu, who's the coach of was gesticulating like a freaking, as he always did as a player. You know, but he was like really going nuts on the sideline.
He said it in motion.
There was some interaction between he and the coach, and people were holding Emre back, and it was almost like he passed the baton, you know, to this madman who just went out there.
Emre is responsible to an extent, for sure.
Oh,
and after the game, he in the interview he said, "I'm just sad." He said, "But like, no, this is you. Your ridiculous tomfoolery all the time." Yeah. You do this. You set this in motion. You rile other people up because you can't keep.
You know that, but he has that violent.
He can't control. He can't control himself.
No, he
like,
looks like he's trying to like kill your parents. Like he's going for many generations.
It's like remember when our fans were cussing him and his mother and his wife or whatever. And he was so distraught. I mean, look, I don't condone that. But he was like, oh, I can't believe Beşiktaş fans would do this. And it's my mother, and it's off limits, and it's my wife. But what does he do? He does the same exact thing. Like, he will yell at the referee, amına kodumun çocuğu, and blah, blah, blah, blah. And he's doing the exact same thing. Like, it's so the pot calling the kettle black. Like, Emre is the last person who should ever act like, you know, any form of insult is too grave. Like, come on, dude. What the things that you... Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous.
No, and you could literally see him basically, like, telling the president of the club, like, this is why I'm so angry, and like getting him riled up, and then the dude just like charges like a freaking I don't even know, like a bull that's like had that flag wave.
You know what I expect is gonna come from this now, which is not a good thing. I think now the fucking referees are gonna get carte blanche. Because now, they're gonna come out of this in a situation of, okay, well, nobody can say shit anymore against us, or the match gets abandoned or whatever, and they're gonna have to make these concessions to the referees. And the standard of refereeing in Turkey obviously is so bad. Like, this is gonna, I'm sure somehow this is gonna end up biting us in the ass. Because
I mean, how it's like, so you know how there's this standard practice of like Fener. Every week they write this little letter.
Yeah.
Like a little
well, they haven't been doing that, to be fair, because they've been winning most of the games.
Yeah,
exactly. But even when they're winning, they're still doing it sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
We didn't get a third penalty.
Like, they're crying so much. Yeah. But so maybe they'll have to like back off.
We have to say though, by the way, just for the record, like both penalties they got against us, they were both penalties. We can't say anything about
arguing.
That, right? No arguing. And somehow they managed to argue our penalty, though. Like, when we got the penalty, like, their entire team surrounding the referee, like, oh, what the... Oh, but you know what I think? I think it was because... Dzeko was going crazy, right? But I think Dzeko thought that Cenk fouled somebody before the penalty, and there was definitely, like, he won the ball, and there was a physical duel. So, you know, I kind of understand a little bit. Like, I don't think it was,
but it was a definite penalty though. Like,
100%.
In the highlight, you can see his like leg like shudder.
Oh yeah. It's a 100% Stonewall penalty. You can't. But like, I thought it was pretty funny though. Like, just the way that they reacted and like so. But,
of course, yeah. But I mean, look, whatever there is to say, like for everything that's occurred, I think we can definitely say that this is a low point as Besiktas fans. And like I think the argument of whether this is a worse season than 05, 06 or whatever, 03 or 4, like it's bad because
football-wise, it's the worst I've seen.
It's the worst football we've seen in so long, and I think what's especially bad is that it's just problems compounding themselves. Like ever since things fell apart with Sergen, basically. And in fact, you know what it is? It was that incredibly improbable championship that we had with Sergen, which in a way, like, created every problem because it set expectations up to an unrealistic level. Like, we should have still basically been in a rebuild. You know, we were a few pieces shy, and like the pieces that we were shy that we brought in didn't pan out, right? And like Sergen left, and then we had like Under, Caravelli, and like all that. It's just been I think that's why this is such a low point, is because you keep waiting for things to pick up, and you're like, oh, we'll bring back Chanel, and like he'll recapture that old glory, and like actually all of his deficiencies are now even worse, and he's like a worse manager than ever before. Which like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, like
some of us might have seen that coming.
I mean, on paper, I think like most of the transfer windows we did a good job, and all that. It's just never really worked out. And the problem is, like you say, where success creates the need for more success and start putting pressure on you, and we went from being modest spenders under Ahmet Nuhcebi to throwing money out the window left and right, and it's not been good.
Work.
Yeah, no, work. I mean it's the problem as well with the whole Ahmet Nuhcebi board is that there was too much. There's a lot of money being spent, but it wasn't being spent wisely, and there was a lot of panic buying, I think. And I don't really know. I don't really get it. Like, I don't understand how you can spend this amount of money, and you know, you don't sign Dusan Tadic after over a month of trying to convince him. But you don't sign him because you can't match the money, but then you go and spend all that money anyway, like the same amount of money on other players. Okay, you're spending it on a couple of players combined, but look, like you can say, like at the time I was like, you can't say that because you're getting 4 players for the price of 1, but like Onana has had no contribution whatsoever this entire season. Like for the money we spent on Onana, we could legit. I mean, look, Dusan Tadic, I think didn't come I don't think he didn't come for the money. I think he didn't come because of the project. I said this before. Yeah. I said this at the time. And
he look now, like he looks pretty smart now.
Well, yeah, he does, of course, because Fenerbahçe, look at all the money they pumped in. Look at the players they signed. They made good signings. Of course he will go to Fenerbahçe because Fenerbahçe had a decent transfer plan, built a decent team. What did we do?
I don't really know. I'm gonna be honest. And like, look, I harp on this all the time, but I'm gonna have to do it one more time because I was watching Onur Bulut start as the central defender against Brugge in Europe, and thinking once again, right? We what was it, like 3 weeks ago or maybe a month ago? We went through that whole list of 10 central defenders we've brought in the last like year and a half.
Yeah.
And here we still are relying, like in a best case scenario, we're going to see Necip on Thursday. Yeah. Like every time we bring in another central defender, we say, well, at least we don't have to see Necip play anymore.
There was a list. There was a list of players that we have brought in over the 14 years, over the 14-year span that we have brought in to replace Necip. It's like 45 players or something.
Dude, it's not normal. Like, there's something.
I mean, obviously, Necip sticks around because of his status of youth player and Turk, right? I mean, you need to have X amount of homegrown players. So, like, obviously, if Necip wasn't Turkish, and he wasn't a homegrown player, he would have been long gone. But you know, still, that doesn't take away the fact that we have
we're
signed.
Just failing.
We've signed yeah. I mean, look, we've Vida was somebody who stuck around for a long time. Sivok stuck around for a long time. There's been guys that stuck around for long times, but this feels like every window we're at least looking for that second defender. We're always looking for the partner to Vida, the partner to Sivok, the partner to
freaking Danny
Marcelo.
Nunco. Danny Nunco was the guy. You'll see. Nope. Yeah. Like there's just never. It not only has it not worked out, but it's like some of the ways that it hasn't worked out, like Bailly,
it's
some
always
of it is like just like
but it's because we're
out of a fantasy.
It's because we always cheap out. We always cheap out. It's always like, oh, we need the central defender, but we always cheap out. Yeah, they go and pay 4.2 million euros for Matej Mitrovic, but spend 2 million more. Like this season, they should have signed Nino. The Fluminense captain, Brazilian under 21 international, won the Olympics with Brazil. That's who we should have signed. He cost 6 million. We should have signed him. Should have put that money on the table and signed him. But instead of doing that, we went for the cheap option again. The quote unquote cheap option, because he costs us like 2.5 or 3 million a year. Or you've only signed a 1-year contract, but still. Like half the money you would have spent on Nino, you give to a guy that's injured half of his career. And that's just always the issue, is that we keep...
Or Amarte, who I don't know how.
Also,
how is he so bad?
Same thing though, Sinan. That's another cheap option because he was free. He was a free agent. So that's another example of us shopping in the bargain bin and grabbing the first thing we can.
I honestly still think that if we had just played Montero and let him get through his struggles and just play and develop, he'd probably be a consistent starter.
100% Montero. I would take Montero any day of the week over Amarte. I would take him over Bailly.
I'm gonna cry.
Legitimately, he's still our player, right? We loaned him, I think, didn't we?
Yeah, bring him back.
Bring him fucking back. Yeah, exactly. Let him play. He's 24 years old. Let him play consistently for a season.
Stupid.
You can maybe develop him and sell him for money.
And what's worse is he showed those flashes, man. He maybe had some unfortunate injuries, or
he cares for the club.
He showed it.
He cares for the club. Bring him back. Why the fuck are we fucking around with Amarte and with Bailly? Just bring Montero back. What the hell? Seriously.
It's one of the perfect examples of the position that I always use as an example of mismanagement and wasted funds and everything. And then you actually do find these guys. It's they've shown a lot of potential. They have these moments, and so just play them.
Oh yeah,
just give them consistency. Let them settle.
He didn't play 100% well. Oh, we're not sure about this guy.
He had this half. There was a second half in the derby where I thought, shut the fuck up. Who do we think we are?
I mean, what's the point of playing Amarte when we know he's fucking flaming bag of dog shit?
Exactly.
Well, and then you have 22 at the time, now 24-year-old Montero who has shown some potential. Just play him consistently, and if he makes a mistake, so what? Onur makes 10 mistakes a game.
Yeah, exactly.
Midget makes 10 mistakes a game.
Yeah, find me a guy.
But then it's no, but a foreigner needs to be of a certain standard. But then they bring in clowns like Amarte.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
come on, man. And even our best foreigners, like Jedson, have glaring deficiencies. You know what I mean? Come on, man.
I don't know. I mean, look, him not being able to finish. I think in his role, he shouldn't.
It's true,
he doesn't have to.
I mean, but you know what I'm saying?
I
we're
know.
not getting superstars.
No, man. But look, we have done really well with our bargain bin shopping in the past, but we have so many duds as well. Sometimes you hit you find a gem and you get a great
Gazal for that year, right?
Gazal, Rosier we got in a bargain bin as well.
I wish we could keep him. That still pisses me off. I really don't know how I'm going to tell my daughter.
I mean, Ox right now is a bargain bin sign if you think about it, And there's been there's been plenty of good ones, getting Abubakar back the first time. when we got him from Porto, we basically got him for free and on a really low wage. That was a bargain bin thing. Quaresma, when he came back, that was a bargain bin thing. Those are all really good deals that we did. But then but there's also so many examples of bad ones because we cheaped out, because we didn't want to fork out the additional 2 million or whatever in a transfer fee, and because it's just this is one of the things that I really hope changes now with the new board. And okay, look, this first decision is a big decision they made, and I think it's I think there's flaws to it, but I think in the large scheme of things, I think it's the right decision, because I think this is the last grasp effort of getting anything out of this squad to salvage some of these players. I think they need to be shocked into action, and I think the only way to do that is by drastic measures, and I think that's what their rationale was as well. We have to take drastic measures. We can't.
I will say this. I bet if they had known that the season was going to be postponed, they would have just been like, okay, wait, hold on. Like maybe the winter break is going to start a little early. You know what I'm saying? Let's just let this shit go on ice. But
I don't think so though. I think they knew they had to do something something drastic. And I think this was the only thing left to do, because firing Riza wouldn't fix anything. It wouldn't change anything.
Not at all. I'm not pro firing
The
Riza.
only option they had was taking action against the players. That's the only option they had. And I think that the normal sit down, just sitting them down, that wasn't enough. I think there had to be some gunpowder in it, and I think that's why they did this.
I would be for firing Riza now if there's a big if this Hansi Flick, whoever Arat had in mind for the big picture, wanted to come in and use the month to see the academy kids and whatever. If there was some logic in place.
But you can bring
not the case,
you can bring him in already and have him do all that without him having the role.
That's true.
You can do all that already if you want. I just think that personally I don't want to have a new coach come in now, because I think you're just getting them off on a poisoned start. I think you need to clean house. We need to clean house, and this is I don't remember ever being in a situation where you needed to clean house in January. This is so unprecedented. But I think we are in a situation now where we need to clean house in January. The new coach needs to come in, and that's also another thing I didn't really agree with you on. Is because you said I think the new coach should have the chance to see every player and all that. But I think we've gotten to a point now where it's clear that some players are a cancer. I think it's best to just remove them.
If it is Hansi Flick, as Arat sort of suggested, he could be of a profile that's high enough in the world football where certain guys fall in line. And again, I'm really just hoping for Rosier, right? Rosier specifically.
I mean, I really hope so too for Rosier. But with Abu, for example, we have to not kid ourselves. The way he has sold out the club in the past. There's some questionable things going on there. And look, okay, sold out the club. As fans, we feel like he sold the club out. I'm sure there was more to it than that, because that board,
let's not forget he got 30 million euro for 10 million a year.
I think he got 6 or 7 a year, and he was on 1.5 with us or something. So I don't know, man. I don't know.
You can feed he probably fed his village for right? Doesn't he do? He has a whole thing where he feeds his village back in Cameroon. I'm sure he got a lot of benefits from that giant salary. Look, it is what it is. It's a shame it's sort of flashed out like it is. And then, like I say, I really think whoever let the locker room slide into the abyss is who we really if you really need to point fingers, I think that's who it is.
But he's not done. The players still need to do their parts to allow it to slide into the abyss.
No, of course. But you've alluded to, they are just a bunch of overpaid babies for the most part, as far as human beings. So, that's where a coach can let it. You put your foot down at a certain point. and
Yeah.
you can get a good
I mean,
response. It clearly wasn't
they're
done.
being pampered from a very young age. I mean, not all of them, obviously, but like a lot of footballers, and this is just the way it is.
Yeah,
Like
man.
they get
Dude, they're getting $1 million.
they get
salaries when
pampered.
they're 18.
They don't have a realistic worldview. I mean, I'm talking in general terms here, of course. Like this is not the case for everyone, and of course, I mean, but like so many players, they don't understand how privileged of a life they're leading, yeah, it's not. They're not the same as most average human beings because they live such a privileged existence.
I mean, you see how that guy Garnacho carries himself, and like you can, it's getting worse. You know what I mean? Like these kids aren't becoming more humble for the most part. Like
I was listening to a podcast the other day with Gary Neville and Roy Keane and Ian Wright, and they were just talking about how youth players nowadays, how different it is from their time. Because back in their day, they had to work really hard to get a chance and all that kind of stuff, and they were humble. They'd come into the team as who was it that I was listening to? He was 16 when he made the team or something, and he was still cleaning the boots of the 18-year-old that was still just captaining the under 19s. While he at 16 was playing in the first team, he was still cleaning the boots of the captain of the under 19s team after every game, and cleaning the boots of one of the senior players. And that's just things that don't happen anymore. And that's one of the problems with like a guy like Simi, like Batuhan in the past and stuff like that. These kids, they get pampered, they get praised so much, and like they don't get humbled anymore as they used to, because young players nowadays are absolutely pampered, whereas back in the day they were humbled initially, and they knew what it was they were fighting for. And now I think very often with young players is they're 18 and they think they've arrived already, and they think they've done it, but they haven't done shit. Maybe they set this is what, like a guy like Simi, for example, who's been playing 2 youth levels above his age. So at 16 he was playing in the under 19s, and he was scoring like 17 goals in the under 19 league, which is a lot for a 16-year-old. You think you've done everything already, you've completed the game, so to speak. But in reality, you haven't done shit. Because who cares about under 19s? Who cares about the under 15s? Who cares about all that? Who cares about all these youth tournaments you've won? They don't mean anything in the real world,
What I'll say too, and from the world of the regional amateur league that Evron, our friend Evron, was describing for us, there is something systemically wrong where I think a lot of the kids who can actually make it out of that, because of how arbitrary it seems, how corrupt, how much nepotism, money exchanging hands between managers, and because of how flawed things are from the ground up, I bet people who actually get out feel like they've accomplished something, because it is probably a semi-miracle to get out of that kind of arbitrary.
Yeah, but that depends. You have guys like Evran, for example, who's been working his entire life towards trying to become a professional footballer, or like Atiba. Atiba, who's worked his socks off, and that's also part of the reason probably why Atiba's always stayed such a humble guy, because he has had to work so ridiculously hard to get where he is. Yeah. And then you have guys who get discovered when they're 9 years old. They get put into the Beşiktaş or the Fenerbahçe or the Galatasaray Academy, and every season they are like, oh, you're doing great, blah blah blah blah, and they get built up, and they don't have that humbleness, and they never had to go through hard times. I mean, obviously they have to go through hard times because, let's say, they're from Kars or something, and then they have to move all the way to Istanbul without their family. And I'm not saying those kids don't have hard times and all that, because they do, but relatively speaking to like a career trajectory like Atiba had to go through to get where he was, that's night and day. And or like the what Evran has been trying for the last decade or so, that is and Evran has seen so many things. I think I told him this when he went to Turkey, or I asked him about it when he was just there. Like, are you having a lot of problems with the local guys? Because I know that they're very protective of their spots. Because of a friend of mine who used to play for an academy in the Super League, and he came from here, and he told me how the Turkish guys treated him like shit. Even though he was Turkish himself, or half Turkish, but they treated him like shit because they're protecting their spots. If that makes sense.
Yeah, of course.
So they
like,
try to bully
like
you out.
Seniority, like no, that's what I mean. Like it sounds. I really hope like Hassan Arat, someone who's somewhat forward thinking, could just do some small things that would make a club so much better. You know, just a bit of professionalism at that level with youths and with like the amateur league. Like, I would love it if I remember when we were talking about buying like whatever Umrani or whatever it was, but I would love it if we bought an actual amateur level team like locally, because there are a million little tiny clubs in Istanbul.
I mean, I think for our academy, you can't go amateur level. You have to have a team in the first or second.
Maybe
at the
like
very
a third
least second,
league,
but
league
I think Birinci League is what you need. So like a Umraniyespor, to have a guy like Semi, for example, now, instead of throwing him in front of the Lions, like we're saying, like in this circumstances, have him play a season for Umraniye in the second division with pressure. With real professional pressure, but not the pressure of Beşiktaş yet.
We need that like Spanish and German, you know, where like the under-19s can play up to a certain level, like where they could play in the 3 league and the 2 league. That would obviously that would make this a lot easier for everyone. But that's the TFF, and they're like, you know,
they were talking about that last season.
I thought so, but nothing came of it. Looks like.
So,
yeah.
I mean, look, Hassan Arat obviously has grand plans and has some really exciting project lined up. Let's hope they can come to fruition, and let's hope that in January he can use his connections with some of the bigger clubs in Europe, like Paris Saint-Germain, like Chelsea. And let's hope that he can bring in some exciting players for us that maybe are not getting the playing time they would hope to get at those clubs. And then you also have to hope that those players take the opportunity seriously.
Yeah,
you know,
sure.
There's a very exciting player that Kartal was talking about the other day.
Soler.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's exactly what we need. I think someone like that, like a number 10, who did well for Valencia, maybe didn't quite. But look at Davinson Sanchez now, right? Like did really well at Ajax, went to Tottenham. Wasn't quite good enough for that level, but look at him now at our level, how good he is. And that's the same thing with a guy like Soler, like did really well for Valencia, it's not quite good enough to be a Paris Saint-Germain starter, but that guy would totally, I mean, if he took it seriously, that guy would rip the Turkish Super League apart, you would imagine. And like, you know, like everyone said as well in our group chat, like a Spanish number 10, you can never go wrong with that. Like they're just so good technically, you know.
And with hopefully with Arat's connections, we can get like a buyout option on some you know what I mean? Like we can do some good business in this process.
I mean, look, like a Paris Saint-Germain, like Soler is playing for Paris Saint-Germain, like as a sub mainly. Like he's got like 350 minutes or something this season, 10 appearances in the league or something. So it's not like he's not playing, but he's obviously like a guy that not a main guy. And maybe they were hoping for him to be or not. I don't know what the situation is with that guy. I could actually ask. I have a friend who is who reports on Paris Saint-Germain, so he can probably tell me about it a little bit. But I mean, that's just, you know, speculation, obviously. But they have so many talented players. They buy so many talented players each year that barely ever get to play. Like Chelsea, Paris Saint-Germain, you know, they buy players just to stall them somewhere else and stuff like that. So
Soler's already 26, so it's not like, you know, he might want to be in a more prominent position on a team. Well, anyway, I mean...
But let's hope we can bring in the right players in January. I mean, Arat was talking about 2 to 4 players. I mean, I think if you drop 5 players from the team now, you're almost already obligated to bring in at least 4 or 5, right?
I think. I mean,
look, if Abubakar isn't gonna be back, then I think we need a striker. We definitely need a right winger to replace Ghazal. We need a number 10. We need a central defender. If Rosier is going, we need a right back because come on, we can't. We need a summer window, and it's January. We're gonna have to bring in 10 players.
Yeah.
I mean,
Let's
look,
hope for the best.
I think if they can bring in 4 good players, that's a lot. And that would be amazing if they can bring in 4 good players, and then you just go through them. You try and build towards next season, and then in the summer you complete the puzzle. I don't think it's realistic to expect them to fill in all the vacancies in January. That's just not realistic.
Our goal needs to be where we're beating Super League sides for the rest of the season. Where we we regain stability in the locker room. Where we're hopefully competitive in the derbies. It doesn't really matter probably, but where we can beat the Trabzons and the Adana Demirs and stuff like that.
I mean, we got Trabzon coming to Vodafone to Tuprash Stadium, I should say. We got Adana coming to us. We got Galatasaray coming to us. We need to be ready for those games and not be total pushovers like we have been in the game so far. Because if you look at those games, Trabzon trashed us, Adana trashed us. Galatasaray didn't trash us, but they beat us, and Fenerbahçe trashed us. We got in 3 of the 4 games we got absolutely outclassed. I mean outclassed. Okay, Adana Demirspor, I wouldn't say we got outclassed. We just got blown out of the water. Yeah, and we got beaten because they scored every shot at goal. But still we got trashed at the end of the day 4-2. We got trashed in Europe by Brugge. We got beaten twice by Bordeaux. We got beaten by Lugano. I mean, look, we have a horrible season. Horrible season.
That 5-0 against Brugge, where the second half, I mean, it was you just knew they were going to keep scoring.
Oh,
it was just. I
mean, look,
I've never seen anything like that.
Look, if you saw that lineup, you knew it was going to be. I mean, look, I had some hope because Van Aken wasn't playing. I thought, okay, maybe their most important player isn't playing. Maybe they'll have some doubt, and maybe we can capitalize on that. But then you saw that back line, you're like, oh, yeah, that's not gonna go well.
And they scored in the 3rd minute, dude. It was
oh yeah,
I've never
hot
seen
knife
it
through butter. Hot knife through butter.
From the very beginning, and I think they scored again in the 12th minute. I mean, it was
Yeah. Hot, like I said, hot knife through butter. It was ridiculous. And the thing is, you could see in that game, if we were half decent, we could give them trouble, because even how shit we were giving their defense trouble. Like Brugge this season, this is not a good Brugge team. In the league, they're kind of struggling. I mean, look, it's not a bad team, but they're not firing on all cylinders like they have been the last couple of seasons. This season and last season, they've not been as good as they were before. The 3 seasons before that, they were really, really good. But couldn't
you argue that 1 point in the Conference League is maybe worse than 0 points in the Champions League?
Oh, 100%, 100%. I mean, in this group. Hey, come on. I mean, okay, you lose against Brugge, that's not a shame, but losing 5-0 is a shame. And then
let's be serious.
Lose twice
we're
against Bordeaux.
To even get a point against Lugano.
Oh, we're going to lose again. Let's be honest.
Yeah,
we ain't winning shit.
We're playing. Yeah, I mean, we've already gone through all the injuries.
Unless Riza lines up the youth team and those kids are in such a good flow from the under 19 that they just that they don't bring any of that baggage that the A team has, then maybe.
And Semi just bosses.
Yeah.
Imagine that.
That would be great, right? How amazing would it be if Semi would now score a brace or something, and just say and just have that "here I am" moment where he's just from now
he has to play. From
where
now
going
on,
forward, it's okay, he has to play, and then you're already.
That's all we have.
But is it but is that a good thing, Sinan? Is that a good thing? Because then maybe we won't bring in a winger in January, and we need a winger, right? Even if Semi has that moment, okay, Semi has to play going forward then, but we still need creativity.
Dude, I mean, you could probably already make the argument we need 2 wingers anyway, with Gazal leaving, and the fact that we're kind of like between Rebic and Rashica being injured so much.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like we technically we need at least a backup, like a starter and a backup.
Yeah. But like I said, like it's not realistic to expect us to fill all those vacancies in January. I think we just have to hope for us to bring in 4 good players, 4 quality players that can make the difference. That can.
I mean, maybe then you do want Semi to sort of flash it and think like.
Yeah.
So we just have him in as a starter.
I mean, if you bring in a guy like Solar, like a creative midfielder, you don't have to have the playmaker on the wings, like because we're kind of used to that, right? We're coming from Quaresma to Gazal. We're kind of used to having that playmaker on the wings, but you don't have to. You can have him behind the striker, perfectly, like traditionally number 10, and then you can have more goal-oriented players on the wings. That works perfectly too. But we need that creative player. That's we just need it.
If we could get a really good 6 and a 10, so that we could actually play Ox as an 8. That would be awesome. That would be great. Because then you could, like, with Ox and a really creative player up top. Like,
I think
probably make a lot of goals.
why are people not considering Jetson as a good 6? I don't really understand that, because he's super dynamic.
He is the eraser.
He is. Yeah, he wins a ridiculous amount of duels. He recovers the ball so well. Why don't we just play Jetson as a 6, Ox as an 8, and then get a new 10? I think that can work.
Yeah, I
don't see why not either. Like, I don't see why people are like, oh, we need a 6. Like, put Jetson on the 6. I think he could be a really good 6.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it. I mean, why? Like, honestly, at this point, why not is an understatement.
But he needs to be fit, and he's not right now.
That's true. Certainly not going to be fit for Thursday.
No. Yeah, exactly. I mean, how long have we been recording, Sinan? I think.
Yeah, we're up on like 2 hours.
2 hours. I mean, look, we haven't had an episode in a while, right? So.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you wanted to talk about?
There isn't, because we probably we're taking a forced break, I would imagine, with the league out of action.
Yeah, I hope it's just a week, because I would be so like. I'm already thinking about January and the transfers we're gonna do, and I do not want a situation where we suddenly have to play 4 games without the new signings. Because that's the same thing as then you're just fucking over the next guy. The next coach is gonna get fucked over anyway, because you still have to do 4 games with rubbish. The team morale won't have a chance to rebound, and the new guys won't have any impact. Like, I just hope that this delay of the season doesn't get extended too much.
That could be like a backbreaker.
Could be horrible for us. Obviously, I don't want them to rush the situation because they need to fix it. But for us personally, as a club, I think it's best that this gets resolved as soon as possible, so that we can not waste any time in the new year with a handicapped team.
Unless we can use this time to salvage things with Rosier, in which case, take your time. Oh man.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess. Let's go Besiktas! I guess. See you next week or whatever. Hopefully.
See you one of these days.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, at the very least, like, if we get confirmation that it's going to be a long delay, we can start doing, like, we'll review this European match next week, and maybe we could talk.
Ugh.
I don't even know what we can talk.
I wanted to talk about I wanted to do an election episode, but my schedule was so horrible the last 2 weeks. Like, I was trying to get Emre to come on to talk about the elections, and I wanted to have you on, and then have the 3 of us. But I reached out to Emre, but he didn't really get back to me on what day worked for him, and I had a horrible schedule, and I was just feeling so bad because I really wanted to do an election episode, and
It could have been cool to do like a live, like while the numbers.
I was thinking of doing that, but I couldn't really. Yeah, even though I was like following it the entire day almost, but I just time.
Because I was relying on you for the info, but we were all waiting. Might as well have just been chatting in like whatever Twitter spaces.
Yeah, that would have been a perfect live episode. Yeah. Anyway, see you next time, guys.
Yeah. Let's go Besiktas! I'm so like not enthusiastic. It's not that, I mean, we all love Besiktas. No, you know what? Let's go Besiktas!
Baba çok babası, çok harikasın.